Yo, welcome to Sig Slayers, the comic interview show, period. I'm Mike the Sig Slayer, chilling with Mark the Honorable Villain. What's up, fam?
What's up, Mike? We got possibly the greatest writer in comics with us again. He is certainly my favorite. He is still killing it to this day. Let him know who we got, Mike.
Joining us today, we have legendary comic book writer Mark Waid joining us. But before we chat with Mark, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and please comment. All right. Our next guest has written classic titles like Kingdom Come, Superman Birthright, and The Flash, but that was then. Now his work has invaded stands with hot titles like Batman, Superman, World's Finest, Justice League Unlimited, Batman and Robin Year One, Absolute Power, and the new history of the DC Universe. Ladies and gentlemen of the Stash Land, we bring to you, once again, the one and only Mark Waid. How you doing, Mark?
Hey, hold for applause. Good. I'm doing really good today. Thanks.
That is
Everything's
great.
coming up Millhouse today.
That's good. Well, we're just going to dive right on in. Mark, I want to talk about this resurgence in your career at DC Comics. You're one of the premier writers there. Tell us what the energy is like writing comics these days for you.
Oh man, it's great. I mean, we seem to have finally, in the past couple of years, gotten over this whole comics are absolutely dead. They're going to die in the next couple of years. I mean, we've been saying that since 1935, but I think certainly in the wake of COVID and during COVID, it was kind of dicey. But man, the books that are selling gangbusters. There's more attention, I think, given to indie books than ever before. I understand there's challenges. I understand everybody's facing challenges, but it's not like the customers aren't out there because when you Absolute Batman is in his 10th printing. So, the ultimate books over at Marvel are just killing it. Every retailer I talk to has been encouraging about sales. Every industry pundit who has access to the figures, like some of the guys at, well, you say Diamond, not so much anymore, but whatever, have said, yeah, things are looking up, which is so. The energy's good. I think specifically at DC, I can't really speak to Marvel, but at DC, man, everybody's pumped, and everything is clicking. Um, and I have not seen this level of energy at DC editorially or creatively in forever. I mean, I really haven't.
Man, I kind of felt that same vibe from you. I was saying, like, especially with the Absolute Universe and kind of like that wing of things and how they're curating the talent and curating the stories.
By the way, I have no idea why my camera keeps doing this. Not at all. If anyone out there is commenting and knows StreamYard can tell me how to fix this, I would be chime in, please.
It's all right. It's all right.
Anyway.
Okay, so Mark, you're one of the premier historians of the superhero genre. The new history of the DC Universe is recently concluded. When DC approached you to do this project, what was the objective they pitched to you, and how much time did you have to research all the current DC stuff?
I had plenty of time, which is good. The mandate was really just make sense of this. They'd looked at the history of the Marvel Universe that I'd done, and of course, Marv Wolfman and George Perez had done their history of the DC Universe back in the day. So the idea was, boy, more than ever, as we're ramping up to an 85th or 90th anniversary, we really need something that codifies as much of this world as we can, as much of this landscape as we can, which I was down for. It was a interesting challenge. I mean, even for me, it was a huge challenge. The Marvel Universe one was easier because I had about the same number of pages, but there's less Marvel history because there's, it hasn't, Marvel Age started in 1961, and they haven't rebooted 6 times, 7 times, 8 times. What? I'm sorry. Wait, 9 times while we were talking. So there is the challenge. I mean, issues 1 through 3, I think, read pretty smoothly and with a certain pace to them. Issue 4 is just madness. Issue 4 is just, starting with Infinite Crisis, man, it is just event. And that was the hardest issue to get through, because that wasn't a matter of, I mean, it's the newest material, but at the same, and it's the material that's most familiar to fans, but at the same time, it is not. And then this character showed up. Let's tell you a little bit about this character. There was no time for that stuff. There was, by the time we got to issue 4 and it was just event, 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 I would get notes from my editors saying, like, well, in this event, Aquaman came back to life. Should we mention this? And I would reply, no, because we didn't have time to mention that he was dead earlier. So let's just leave it as it lays. It was fun. I did the timeline stuff first. I did all the back matter stuff first, so that
Okay.
I wouldn't accidentally overlook something important. And that was the real joy to me. I mean, I like doing the front matter of the book, but the back matter with the timelines, that was just so much fun, because that was just like the world's biggest jigsaw puzzle, and putting it all together. And it, like I said, I'm really happy with what we got. There's some, there's a few revelations in there. There's a few things that are new to fans. There's a few things that help codify stuff that is theory, fans have been fan theory or head canon in my case for a lot of times. But I'm pretty happy with what we came up with.
And I was telling Mike that it is crazy that you did the Marvel one 6 years back, and now you did this one. I do also want to talk about last year the Kingdom Come documentary was released.
Yeah.
Were you involved in any way of the development of the doc?
Nope.
No,
Nope.
not at all.
They introduced me, or they interviewed me for a little bit. That was the extent of my involvement. I have nothing bad to say about it. It's interesting. It's, if you want to go look at it, great. It is really just a very well deserved hagiography of Alex Ross, which, and again, have very deserved, very talented man. So that's basically, it is the Alex Ross documentary.
Yeah.
I think they used Kingdom Come as just sort of the hook. But I show up for a minute or two to say something, and then I'm off. So I wish them the best of luck with it going forward. And if you enjoyed it, great.
And now let's talk about your year one stories. Your no rookie to year one stories. You wrote JLA year one, and now your
Yeah.
most recent Batman and Robin year one.
Yeah.
How's Batman and Robin a different storytelling than JLA year one?
It's different because, well, first off, that era of Batman has been examined very heavily over the years, and they've done a lot of stories set in that period. Whereas with JLA Year One, there weren't a whole lot of stories set in and around that period. And this was, JLA Year One was basically just okay, now post crisis, here's what the origin of the Justice League is, and it's kind of stood. I even managed to basically work it into um, the history of this universe, where it still pretty much stands. There's probably some details that don't stand, but by and large, it still exists in the DC continuity. With Batman Year One, Batman and Robin Year One, rather, Chris Somney approached me, and again, I'm no idiot. I wore Chris anytime, anywhere. Chris approached me and says it's his dream to do a Batman book. He really wants to do Dick Grayson's Robin. He loves that era. What can we do? And so we threw ideas back and forth. I think I was the one who came up with the Batman and Robin Year One name, something that would make it feel important and not just like another Batman miniseries. And we just went to town. I mean, Chris co-plotted it with me, in the sense that it's not full script and then Chris draws it. With this one, we did it like we did Black Widow, which is, we'll talk over the story, get on the phone, jam for a couple hours. I'll write up like a 4 or 5 page outline that sort of leaves the choreography of stuff to him. And then he goes to town, turns it into a story, makes a few dialogue notes here or there when necessary. I go back then and I script it over that. And it's a good working relationship. So it was a blast. I'm so happy it was received so well. I'm so glad that we managed to find some character hooks to these characters that have never been explored before. So it's really very pleased with the reception.
We have Dan Mora coming up on the show really soon, and we'll be
cool.
remiss we'll be remiss not to ask you a Darren Mora question.
Sure.
First off, what do you think his superpower is? And are you as amazed as we are at the amount of work he's cranking out these days?
Oh my God. He can, when he's cranking, he can do 3 pages a day. When he's, my favorite Dan story is that he sends me like thumbnails every morning before he starts a couple of pages, just to make sure nothing gets lost in translation and stuff. And it's always great. And he'll send me a thumbnail. So at 8:12 one morning, I got an email from Dan with a thumbnail for a page. At 8:20, I wrote him back and said, "This looks great." At 10:16, the finished page, inked, everything comes across through my email. He's fast, but he's dynamic. He's our premier comic book artist, maybe of the moment.
Speed Force.
And it's that he's fast, so he's everywhere, and it's also that he's a great storyteller. Like, never get lost in a Dan story. Always understand what's going on, and there's an energy to it. And the thing that benefits me most as his collaborator on Justice League and on World's Finest is that Dan can make the modern stuff look cool, but Dan can also go back to Silver and Bronze Age material and characters and villains and make them look amazing too. So many times I will ask for like a villain from the 1960s or whatever, and I will say to him point blank, like, this is just a starting point. Feel free to do whatever you want to with this. No one really cares if Zebra Man looks exactly like Zebra Man did in 1962. It's okay. Just go nuts. And it'll come back and it'll be on model every time. But there's something about his style that makes everything look contemporary and everything look relevant.
Mark, I want to talk to you about your big DC-wide crossover event, Absolute Power. You did that a couple years back. What are the challenges of writing a company-wide crossover of that magnitude?
All of the challenges, like every challenge that can be, can be put in front of you when you're writing comics is there. It is a challenge, first and foremost, to come up with a menace that is that big, that can involve all of the DC heroes, right? Yeah. It is also a challenge to come up with an idea that hasn't been done before, or at least hasn't been done, recently, or hasn't been done exactly the way you're trying to structure it. So the idea that everyone in the DC universe losing their powers and the powerless people having all their support stripped from them, no Batcave, no Green Arrows, none of that stuff. That we haven't done in a long, long time. So that was a challenge, but that was there. The good news is editorial, and this gets back to the energy we were talking about a minute ago about the DC Universe energy, is that editorially and creatively, more than I have ever seen at DC, and remember, I've been doing this for 40 years, I have never seen such communication between editorial and between creative people and between it's all one ecosystem and it's all clicking. So DC was really good about saying, okay, you tell us which characters you need. You structure this thing out so that you just tell the story that you think is best, and we will make the rest of it work. So that is why we didn't have a whole lot of continuity blips. That's why you didn't have a whole lot of Superman's doing this other thing over in his own book at the same time he's lost his powers here. What's happening? How is that working? So I work with all the writers. The writers were, Tom King and Josh Williamson, and Chip Zdarsky, who was doing Batman at the time. They were all on board, happy to help. And it all came together beautifully. And again, Dan Mora can draw anybody in anything. So it really clicked, I felt like. And I felt like DC certainly felt like it was the event that sort of felt the strongest in the last few years. So it just cohesive, simple, not a million crossovers, just here's a solid story.
Last year was a big year for Superman, right? At the movie. Last year was also saw the conclusion of one of your Superman stories, the Last Days of Lex Luthor. Yeah. And shout out to David Barron of The Process, who's on this channel. who's also part of that team, he actually colored a page from that story, issue 3, like sometime last year. But now that the story is all said and done, Mark, and I remember the first time we interviewed you, you were actually plugging issue 1.
Yeah,
and so
that was in the distant memories of, yes, I know.
What are your reflections now that it's over?
It took 7 years. I mean, from the day I sat down and wrote, okay, here's my pitch for the story, to the time the third issue came out, it was 7 years. But I think it was worth waiting for. I think it may be the best thing I ever wrote. I am just overwhelmingly pleased with the way it came out, with the way Brian Hitch and David interpreted my script. Whatever was left for me to say about Superman after Birthright, I got to put in here. This is basically what I got to say about everything I have to say about Lex Luthor. I was able to put in here, and I'm ostensibly 20 years later, I'm a better writer than I was when I wrote Birthright. I'm 20 years better, I hope. So it really came together, and I think it may be the best thing I ever wrote.
Wow, wow, that's whew.
So
check out the last days of Lex Luthor, folks. You heard it from the man himself. All right, so let's talk about Justice League Unlimited.
Yeah.
When we hear a title like that, many fans think about the legendary animated series from the Bruce Timm, Paul Dini verse, right? Yeah. And they went deep in the bag with all the characters, right? So they had, it went beyond just the 7. And so was that the goal with your series with Justice League Unlimited, where you be deep in the bag with the characters, dusting off old characters that people forgot about in the DC lore?
100%. It was basically made for me, right? If it's going to be unlimited, let's make it straight up unlimited. Everybody who is a superhero on Earth who wants to be a Justice Leaguer and can pass the most rudimentary moral screening is in. And that gave me the chance to do deep dives into DC continuity. So at least for the first dozen or so, I had a structure. I had spreadsheets, I had lists, I had all the wish lists for myself, all this stuff. And basically what it came down to as a general formula was each issue or each adventure should have 2 or 3 of the A-listers, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, that level of character. Couple of B-listers, your Blue Beetles, your Zatannas, whatever. And then at least one complete wild card that you've never seen before or haven't seen in a million years, like Dr. Occult. Someone like that who is such a deep cut that he may as well be a new character to people. And that is my favorite part of doing this, is taking these older characters and shining them up and being willing to change and tweak and modify if I need to, but basically I don't need to. You just go through and take the characters that I love and just shine them up and show you why I love them, and that hopefully makes you love them too. Yeah, the greatest compliment I keep getting from my editor, Paul Kaminsky, is he'll read these stories and he will say, I never heard of this character, but now I love this character. I never heard of Thunderlord, but now I love Thunderlord. So
Mark, I want to talk about this project that's been the talk of the town. You, as a longtime comic book fan, how cool is it to be part of these Marvel DC crossovers? You did some you did some back in the day, the Amalgam books, Super Soldier, JLX, and now you're the main writer for the Superman Spider-Man anniversary.
Yeah.
Is there a moment in time that you take to reflect how pivotal your career has been to superhero comics? Not only have you written pivotal stories, but you've been a part of these pivotal eras.
I honestly never think about it that way, but that's cool that you do. I mean, that's awesome. I never want to fall into the trap of being arrogant enough to say, look at how influential I was in comics, or look at the greatness of my career or anything like that. That is an ego beyond control. That is for the audience to decide. But I will say that as someone who remembers clearly the day his mother brought home the first Superman Spider-Man tabloid crossover, and what a great joy that was, and what a great day that was. being able to write the Superman Spider-Man crossover 50 years later has been a blast. I mean, just so much fun and such energy to this thing. And Jorge Jimenez doing the artwork looks great. It's I am so pleased with the way it's coming together.
I got a bonus question real quick,
Yeah.
Mark. Been in the game for 40 years.
Yep.
Working with some of the hottest new artists of the last, I would say, 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Jorge, you mentioned Jorge Jimenez, Dan Mora.
Yeah.
What is the greatest joy right now today making comics of the whole process from the writing to the end? What do you get the most fulfillment out of?
The thing that excites me most and the thing that keeps me going, it is all of those things. All of those things are awesome. But I think the thing that keeps me excited and going is continuing to discover things about these characters that I've never thought about before, that maybe you've never thought of before, and put those into the stories and really sort of flesh them out. Just little stuff like, what was it like the first time Superman got telescopic vision? Did he freak out? What was that like? How did that look like to him? That's the stuff that interests me, is how your powers influence your day-to-day living. And not just when you're punching stuff, but when you're just trying to get through the day. You have these abilities. That is a prism that the rest of us don't have to look through. And so that's to me the exciting thing. I was working on a story just last week, and it was an Action Comic story with Superboy. And I gotta say, I was okay with it, but it didn't feel like it was coming together yet. I wasn't excited about it yet. It was kind of drudgery. And then I realized something that can happen in this story, which was that at this point in the narrative, and I went back and checked them in the previous issues of Action Comics, we could say that Superboy doesn't know he comes from the planet Krypton yet. And this could be where he learns he comes from the planet Krypton. And suddenly the story takes on a whole new level, right? Suddenly the story is very exciting to me because I get to tell that story and how you react to the fact that somebody is coming to you and telling you where you come from and what your backstory is, and that the planet is gone and you're the last sole survivor. What is that like hearing from Clark's point of view? So that really is the stuff that gets me out of bed in the morning.
Wow.
Mark, we're almost at our last question. I did want to ask a bonus question too.
Yeah, sure. I got a little time. Go ahead.
Are you looking at the Absolute Universe in any way? Do you have any interest in the Absolute Universe? And if you do, is there any character that you'd be interested in writing?
Not really. I mean, I love what they're doing. I mean, Jason Aaron in particular, I love what he's doing with Absolute Superman. Absolute Martian Manhunter, great book. Absolute Green Lantern, really good. I mean, all of them are good. So I don't want to call out some and leave some others out. I think that the prevailing feeling at DC is, Scott and Josh and those guys, or Scott and Jason and those guys, that is really good at taking those big swings and reinterpreting these characters from scratch, where I'm really good at taking the characters and showing as they exist and showing you different sides of them that you haven't seen before and doing the deep dive on the continuity. So that seems to be more my lane. It never occurred to me to write. I don't think I could come up with an absolute Green Arrow book or whatever, just because I like Ollie, and I like him so much. I can't think of a different way to do that character that would be radically different, just because I'm so invested in these characters. I do have an absolute Deadman idea that I pitched jokingly, but it's a really good idea. And if nobody else picks up that gauntlet, I'm gonna push for it again next summer.
All right, Mark. We're on our very last question. Is there anything that we haven't talked about? Do you want the fans to know about? Any upcoming appearances? Any new projects? Do you want to talk about your new DCKO book with Green Lantern and Flash?
Let's see. We're doing. Let's see. We did the issue of Flash with versus Jay Garrick versus Guy Gardner in Flash. I'm doing 6 issues of Flash with co-writer Christopher Cantwell, who is terrific. He's a TV writer. He did Iron Man a few years ago. He did this great Challengers of the Unknown miniseries last year that was completely underrated, and he's been fun to work with. And so in terms of upcoming stuff, we didn't talk about Batman Superman World's Finest very much, and we're still chugging. I'm working on issue 50 as we speak, and there is no end in sight. Like, I keep waiting for DC to call and say, no, sales keep plummeting, but they don't. They say they've never seen anything quite like it. The sales just stay steady no matter what, which doesn't happen in comics. There's just been no fall off. So that's a blast. There is one other thing that's coming up that is neither Marvel nor DC oriented, and that is that I joined up with a collectible card game company called Alpha Clash, and they're doing a Kickstarter for a new comic book that I will be co-writing. And the Kickstarter launches on Monday. It's called Rising Empires. So that's the Kickstarter you're looking for. It's a cool new superhero universe, but with some interesting takes there that aren't your typical superhero universe stuff that's a little more grounded in the world that's happening right outside our window right now. And that is something I would encourage people to check out. So Alpha Clash, Rising Empires, Kickstarter.
Okay.
All right, Mark, thank you so much for joining us, man. Coming back again. Just know you always have a home here on the Sig Slayers station, man. It's always an honor to have you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. And if anybody can solve my StreamYard problem, please let me know. So, all right, anytime, guys.
You got it. Well, that's all for our show. If you like what you see, please subscribe and hit the like button. This is Sig Slayers. I'm Mike, speaking for Mark and Mark Waid. We are out. Peace. Sig Slayers.